Hey, what is going on, all of you beautiful, beautiful people? It is your boy, Kuroyuki ESO, and I hope you're having an absolutely wonderful day today. So, as some of you folks may or may not be aware, Fallout The Frontier, an absolutely massive scale Fallout New Vegas mod, just released a couple of days ago after years and years of development and hype, and I gotta say, it's quite an experience. Now, naturally, I immediately downloaded it, because Fallout New Vegas is one of my favorite games, and anything new Fallout it's right up my alley. So, I'm making this little video today after about 15 hours of gameplay to give you guys my first impressions and initial thoughts, as well as just kind of a little mini review of the first few hours of the game. So be forewarned, there will be some spoilers for the first chapter, however, nothing too major. Most of the stuff that you'll see is actually stuff that was in the trailers. So yeah, if you want to join me while I continue my playthrough, because I'm going to be doing a full review of the mod after I'm finished, you can join me over at twitch.tv/KuroyukiESO, where I will be streaming this every day until I've seen pretty much everything it has to offer. So, that being said, let's go ahead and jump on in. Now, the Frontier starts off just like any other New Vegas playthrough. You wake up after a long night of debauchery and mild cranial trauma with no recollection of what happened the previous night, and no clothes on in a strange old man's bed, just to find out that he's scrambled your facial features in your sleep. So after you put your nose back in place and change your gender, he's finally ready to let you out of bed. You make your way across the room and play a few games of Pac-Man on his fancy arcade machine, and then answer a handful of deeply personal questions.
Dog.
Before the doctor just hands you his notes and lets you scribble in whatever you want. After that's all taken care of, he proceeds to give you a fancy watch.
They call it a Pip-Boy.
And a gimp suit and sends you on your way. Upon leaving the old man's house, we're greeted by a lot of useless pop-up windows, as well as one very useful new pop-up window. The Frontier requires the player to be at least level 11 to unlock the quest to enter it, so for those of you guys who are wanting to start a new game and go straight into the action, they did give you the option to quick start at level 12, setting all of your skill points that you would have gained up to that point, and choosing a set of perks to loosely follow a build, all of which can be changed later if you want when the game prompts you to rebuild your character before traveling forward. They do also give you the option to add Caesar's Legion Reputation to allow you to follow their quest line if you wish. After setting up my stats, I decided to go with a focus on melee and energy weapons, as well as some repair skills. I was told to wait a few hours for an NPC to come talk to me. Well, several long, hard days of standing completely still in the middle of an unfamiliar town later, I was finally approached by intern John. He handed me a pamphlet, and I immediately mistook him for a Jehovah's Witness and almost opened fire, but luckily for him, he told me just in time he was actually just a soldier with the NCR.
I'm with the Frontier NCR.
But also not really, and that if I wanted to join his kind of NCR but also not NCR club, I could find them up north at their clubhouse. I took a quick look at my map, and this thing was actually quite a long ways away, so I swung by the general store in town and stocked up on all of the necessary provisions I would need for a long, dangerous journey before heading out, and then proceeded to fast travel directly to the camp. Upon arriving at the totally not NCR clubhouse, Sergeant Johnson from Halo recognizes me.
Ain't you that courier fella? Ah, very funny.
And offers to take me on a tour of the Frontier, which sounded a little weird at first, but then the guy inside the tent, Gray, said they would pay me for it.
Do that, and you'll
I use a
collect
capture
2,000
card.
caps upon completion of the tour.
I get 2,000 caps, and I get to go on a free tour? Yeah, sounds good to me. Well, little did I know, the papers that I just finished signing were actually enlistment papers, and I was now a soldier for the not NCR for the foreseeable future. I guess that's how they get you. Unable to back out now, they issued me a uniform and a rifle, and stuck me on a truck and sent me off to war. On the truck, Gray offers to tell me a little bit more about the not NCR, which I agreed to out of courtesy, and was served a very nice helping of exposition with a side of backstory flashback, and it was actually quite delicious. This is Fallout New Vegas, which was made by Obsidian, but the content I'm playing right now is all modded in.
It's hard to see with this fog, but things are looking up for us. You could say looking.
Now, this is the first time we see one of the Frontier's many, many cutscenes, taking us back in time to just before the start of Operation Sunburst, aka the Battle of Helios 1. Now, we fill in the shoes of the aforementioned character Gray. This is a really cool system they've worked in, giving you stats, gear, and sometimes even voiced lines from the characters that you meet, and it really does help to flesh out some of these characters and help you understand their experiences. At first, it's a little jarring, but once you start to realize what's happening, you get used to it, and I actually found myself getting pretty hyped up for these sections. At the start of this cutscene, we spend a good 5 minutes sitting around a campfire with the boys, listening to some back and forth conversation and just getting to know a little bit about the soldiers that Gray used to serve with. We've got a jokester, ladies' man, military devotee guy, and, the usual stuff, and then we got this character Nomad, who just wants to get back home to his girl and propose. Nomad makes it pretty apparent that he trusts Gray, and only Gray, and asks if he would be willing to deliver the ring to his girl if anything were to happen to him on this tour. Talk about foreshadowing, am I right?
You're going to see her again. Don't worry.
Yeah, but just give me a word, right?
After a quick pep talk and a light smack on the ass from the general, our boys are sent into the battle. No idea whose idea was to send a bunch of guys in paper-mache armor into battle against power-armored troops with no armor-piercing rounds, but it does go pretty well, and we manage to clear the courtyard and invade Helios 1. After entering Helios 1, Noctis from Final Fantasy XV tells me to fuck off, which I do.
Gray, the breach team has the interior covered. Get back out there and secure that door.
Outside, the general from before tells me there's no more room left in the hospitals, sounds familiar, and that the merciful thing to do will be to quickly put down our wounded and save them the pain of a slow death.
You need to put them down.
Well, being the sociopath that I am, or I guess that I was making Gray be, this was no problem, and I quickly popped their tops like a couple of ice-cold bottles of Nuka-Cola. The last wounded soldier we attended to is our buddy Nomad. What a surprise. I listened to his last pathetic gasp of life before squashing his head like a grape and finishing this sequence. After having to put down some of his friends, Gray is clearly pretty shaken up, and to accentuate that, we get to watch the camera slowly pan out from him for approximately a minute and a fucking half. I'm not joking. We sit here looking at Gray feel sorry for himself for a minute and 30 seconds straight, with absolutely nothing else going on the screen. Maybe I'm boring, maybe I just don't understand art, but this seemed a bit excessive and really pulled me out of the experience about a third of the way through. And this isn't the last time it happens, either. There are 2 more instances in just the first chapter alone that I'll show you, and every time I feel like it actually gets worse. After we finally finish watching Gray feel sorry for himself, we cut to a cutscene of him snuggling up with General Blackthorne and reminiscing over the glory days of last week, but suddenly, all hell breaks loose. A British man walks up to us and tells us the Legion is attacked to the south. Oh no!
What's all this about?
We have received reports that the Legion is invading east of the Colorado. Fort Aradesh has already been lost.
So our boys Blackthorne and Gray take a walk on over to visit the general, who tells them that their men are needed to reinforce the front line, which we didn't appreciate.
They should be going home, not off to another goddamn war.
So Blackthorne calls him a cuck and immediately gets banned from the NCR by the Twitch mods, meaning that he and his friends had to find somewhere new to hang out. Somewhere exciting, somewhere cold, and he knew just the place. The frontier. Roll intro card. After the intro card fades away, we arrive in Helgen in the back of a carriage with a... My bad. We actually arrive in Camp New Phoenix in the back of a truck. This is the main base of operations for the not NCR in the frontier, and are told to make our way to the hangars and wait for our first assignment. This part actually really reminds me of Call of Duty 4, you'll see in a minute. Being a typical Fallout player, I completely ignore my quest markers and spend the next 2 hours looking around the not NCR base, stealing things and chatting up anybody with a name.
Angel's Justice. That's what I used to call myself when I first joined. Yeah, I was kind of edgy. Angel's Justice. That's what I used to call myself when I first joined. Yeah, I was kind of edgy.
Okay, make a clip of that. The world building here is pretty solid. There's lots and lots of characters with fun and interesting things to talk about and learn about, as well as some little bits of mischief to get up to.
Don't press the big red button. You idiot! I told you not to press the red button!
Don't do that again.
I find a few side quests, but I haven't actually yet done them. But they are there. They're all over the place, just kind of hidden. So yeah, after seeing just about every inch of the base that I could and stocking up on ammo for my laser rifle, I finally decided to head over to the hangar like I was told. In the hangar, I meet two guys, Hotshot and Hardcase. These guys are members of the Not NCR's elite squad known as Wolfpack, which I will be referring to as
Puppy power!
for the remainder of this video. They flirt with me for a little bit, call me cute, and then challenge me to a score run over at their gun course. Like I said, very much Call of Duty 4 vibes.
100 bottle caps on this asshole not beating my score.
I head over to the range, and just before entering, a Legion member cosplaying as a Not NCR soldier gives me a quick kiss on the cheek and then leaves before I can get his number. Personally, I thought introducing the Legion here was a bit odd and maybe out of place, but it may have made more sense if I took the Legion reputation at the beginning, but I didn't. Heading into the course now, I chat up Hardcase a bit and compliment his outfit. With a speech check of 100, I think I would have actually been able to get a set of their armor for myself right off the bat, something to remember for a future playthrough. Skill and special checks are actually quite common in the dialogue I've noticed, and that's a pretty nice touch. I take my place at the start of the course, set the breaching charge, and ready my laser rifle, only to realize my laser rifle was actually stolen from me and replaced with an inferior ballistic weapon. Disgusting. Now, the rules here are pretty simple. Shoot the bad guys, shoot the good guys, trigger every pressure plate you can, and try your hardest to accidentally die. I kept waiting to hear something along the lines of,
Switching to your pistol is always faster than reloading.
but it never actually came into play because they swap your weapons for you automatically for each different part of the course. At the end, I didn't quite make the score that I needed to beat Hotshot, and I lost out on a chance to win an easy 500 caps. It still haunts me to this day.
Thank you for the caps, Legendary Courier. If you want to keep trying, be my guest. But you'll never beat my score.
With the gun range portion finished, it's finally time to get on with my first real assignment. It's a simple task: set some landmines on a bridge to make the Legion think twice about crossing it. Sounds great, let's go. I fall in line with the boys and head off towards the objective when I'm stopped by a random prostitute who asked me to join her Crusaders Club, all the way on the other side of the world. And then she literally fucking disappears from existence, I shit you not. Once again, I don't think this is the best way to introduce a faction. It seems very unnatural, a bit forced, and definitely immersion breaking. You'd think that a spy from a rival faction wouldn't just hang out in front of the largest military base in the region handing out flyers. But you'd be wrong, and the only way to join that faction is to just completely drop what you're doing with the NCR and walk all the way across the world to join them with no real reason to do so. She didn't say anything intriguing about the faction, she didn't try to convince you to join them, she didn't even do anything to make them sound cool, or interesting, or worthwhile. So, yeah, as of yet, I've yet to find a more natural way to join them, and that's kind of a bummer to me. Moving past that small gripe, I follow the boys up into town and run into my first pack of enemies, a group of raider-type enemies known as scavs. We launch a successful surprise attack and clean them up nice and quick, executing the few foolish enough to surrender to me.
What do we do with them? You and Six, put them down.
Alright,
Get on with it.
if you insist.
Alright, let's get back to it. Move!
Now just up the road, we run into an actual fucking tank. When this thing showed up, I may or may not have actually tinkled my boxers just a little bit, thinking about the possibility of getting absolutely blasted, but luckily the tank was on our team. We followed it up through the city, fought through some more scavs, repaired the tank, which was a neat little mechanic, and eventually made it to the bridge. Upon inspection, the Not NCR outpost that was supposed to be here was more deserted than most areas in vanilla New Vegas, which spelled trouble. I didn't know it at the time, but it was actually just a surprise birthday party for the corporal who was leading our team, complete with fireworks and everything. Unfortunately, just like any poorly executed gender reveal party, the fireworks got a little bit out of hand and people started losing limbs. The Legion showed up to complain about the noise, but instead of being civil and hearing them out, my Not NCR friends decided to start shooting instead. Typical military types. Naturally, this led to a lot of people dying, and just an all-around bad time. We made a break for the other side of the bridge, but I wasn't quite fast enough, and I got sent straight into another scene.
Actually, you know what, this whole first chapter gives me major Call of Duty 4 vibes, from being real.
Wait just a moment. What do we have here? Could it really be the courier from the Mojave?
Now, Makarov here ends up kidnapping me and takes me to a Legion base of some sort to try and tickle information out of me. Information I would have gladly coughed up in exchange for my life, if I had any, so instead I just decided to be edgy. That didn't go too well.
Very clever. Edmund, the hammer, please.
Yeah, Fable's great. I'm so excited for the reboot. Hit me harder, Daddy.
In an effort to squeeze out any information I may have been hiding, they bring in a random not NCR soldier that I have absolutely no connection to as a bargaining chip. Naturally, they weren't satisfied with my answers still, and they begin to disarm my friend here.
We're looking for a fucking unicorn, dude.
A unicorn? Well, I hate to disappoint, but I'm afraid those
They
aren't
really
real.
are.
Edmund?
And beat me until I'm unconscious. After a long night of getting absolutely hammered, I wake up in front of a tall building filled to the brim with legionnaires and an angry man behind me, anal probing me continuously, and repeatedly saying,
Now look upon this creature and all of its pathetic glory.
Insane crash at this point. Quality of low to see if you can...
The sequence is really cool, but sadly it melted my PC and didn't run very well. I'm pretty sure that's mostly just a problem on my end and not the mod authors, but it's worth noting. After slowly making my way to the very top of the tower, I'm disheartened to say that there was a bug that repeatedly ended in my death, so I had to god mode my way to the top, and I heard it was actually kind of common. Arriving at the top alive triggers yet another cutscene, this time of the courier role-playing as Jesus, with his Legion buddies playing the part of the Romans. Unfortunately, their cosplay was a lot better than mine. After being lashed to the cross nice and snug, we're greeted by the second instance of the camera, panning out slowly for over a minute. I believe this one was about 1 minute and 20 seconds. Again, I'm not sure if this was just like a design decision or what, but it's definitely a little jarring. After finally being set free from Zoom Out Purgatory for the second time, we load into a mission briefing room, where the members of Puppy Power are getting ready to come save me. They load up in a Vertibird and take to the skies in a huge Verdi assault team, heading straight for the Legion frontline. Now this one drops us into the shoes of Puppy Power's leader, Hardcase, armed to the teeth with all sorts of fun weapons. Now, there's some mixed feelings among the other members of Puppy Power, as well as the rest of the NCR troops being sent on this mission, as to whether or not my single life is worth the potential loss of dozens to even an entire battalion of soldiers because of this risky assault. And anyone that thinks that their life is more important than mine is clearly delusional and should probably be put down anyway.
Wouldn't mind telling me why we're wasting time and resources.
Have a good night, though.
And do I need to mention risk our lives for one person?
Shut up, man.
I'm just saying. Do the math. Command's launching a diversionary attack while we go in. You figure at least 200 guys are in that attack. Some of them are going to die.
Things don't go too well for the assault force, and we end up getting blown out of the sky. Luckily for me, Hardcase has an adamantium skeleton and amazing regenerative abilities, and is basically an unkillable demigod. We spend the next few minutes wiggling our way through Legion trenches and blowing up a bunch of AA guns to give our Vertibirds more freedom and give me access to more types of air support, which I actually didn't use any of, criminally so. This part feels like a typical AAA first-person shooter type mission, just without all the AAA polish and all of the bugs. We eventually roll up on the tower, where my Jesus act is starting to get real old. We blow the door and infiltrate, but upon entering, Mouse, the oldest member of Puppy Power, gets clobbered like a piñata and takes a knee. We send him and AJ, the token female, off to evac to patch him up, and Hardcase takes on the tower alone with the help of Hotshot. After taking care of all the Legion troops in the tower, the boys set my courier free, and we escape the tower and head for evac. Unfortunately, a tank comes busting through some rubble, and this time it's not on my team, and it's here to terminate my free trial of life. Again, this part is really cool, but just like the Legion Tower bit, I experienced a bug here which kinda messed it all up. The Vertibird was supposed to be able to drop me tank busters to shoot this tank with to defeat it as a kind of a boss battle, but it didn't do it after the first one, just flew over not dropping anything.
I think they're flying overhead without dropping the tank busters at all. Yeah, that's okay.
So after about 30 minutes of trying to shoot the tank to death with small arms fire, I just gave up and asked God for assistance to smite the foe for me.
Well, let's try this then.
It was a resounding success. With the tank dealt with, we were finally free to load up on a transport vertibird and get the hell out of there, but surprise surprise, there's RPGs on the rooftop.
Enemy RPGs on the rooftops!
And the vertibird carrying AJ and Mouse gets shot down. Hotshot and Hardcase rappel down to rescue them like it's an action movie scene, but sadly Mouse has already taken the room temperature challenge and has shoved off this mortal coil, and AJ isn't too far behind. What follows is a Halo Reach-style lone wolf shooting gallery type mission, where we fend off waves of Legion until we just can't take it anymore. The battle rages on for a good 5 to 10 minutes until I forget to take a stim pack and my health drops below the threshold that you need to activate the cutscenes. Next you see Hotshot showing off just how cool he is by glitching around inside of a mob of Legion attackers for a minute or so before finally being defeated. Luckily for me, he had the Martyrdom perk on and took almost all of them to Sovngarde with him. Now, at this point, Hardcase is tripping balls, and the slightest movement of my camera makes me sick to my stomach. In the Last Stand segment here that we've all seen before, we take a few Legion troops out until their commander shows up right as I conveniently run out of ammo, mind you, and Hardcase says fuck you, and we get to see the end of Red Dead Redemption all over again. Hardcase dies, and with him, so does Puppy Power. A tragic tale with a sad ending. Very well executed. Until we hit our third obscenely long pan-out scene. That's right, this one lasted a whopping 2 minutes and 20 seconds. 2 minutes and 20 seconds of slowly having the camera get closer to the sky while looking at one immobile dead guy surrounded by a few immobile enemies. It's insane, absolutely insane amount of time staring at the same thing, if you ask me. Now, personally, this last zoom out, I feel like is the one that actually belonged in the game to begin with. However, I feel like 2 minutes 20 seconds is too long. If the others were about 30 seconds of pan out and this one was about a minute, maybe, I don't know. I feel like it would fit. Thematically, this is a very dramatic scene, and the pan out is supposed to create more tension inside of you and make you feel for the death of this character. Unfortunately, the fact that it takes so long really makes me stop giving a shit after the first minute and a half. But with that, we wrap up the first chapter of the Not NCR questline in Fallout: The Frontier. Some thoughts before we wrap this up. I really enjoyed it. I know I gave it a little bit of shit, but, well, you know, it's just something we do. It seemed a little over the top in some places, and some voice acting was hit and miss. Obviously, there's some really stellar voices here, but it's definitely a mixed bag, and having some of them be so good just serves to make some of the ones that aren't as great stand out a bit more. All in all, though, none of them were bad. Everyone was at least acceptable. The world is sprawling with lots and lots of content and things to see behind just about every corner, and the quests are intense, if a bit linear, on the NCR path, but I read that's by design. The music is also very well done, and it's mostly bug-free experience, aside from a few minor issues. Now, The Frontier is shaping out to be the Fallout experience that we needed, even if it's not exactly the one we deserve, and I'm here for it, okay? I do plan on releasing a full review after I finish my playthrough, and I will be streaming this game every day until I'm satisfied with it. So, if you want to catch me for the rest of my playthrough, remember, you can find me over at twitch.tv/KuroyukiESO. I hope you guys all have a great day. I love you. Download The Frontier now, give it a try, and I'll see you later.
A lot long. Still going. Now, if this was the only time this happened, I guess I would be like, that's fine. But this is the third time that it's happened, and I feel like each time they do this zooming out thing, it just gets longer.